Hello and welcome back to Broll Redux. How's it going,
Hey,
baby?
good morning. How are you?
I am doing good. I am doing good.
Hey, that was a doozy you gave me. I only scrubbed for maybe 5 minutes through it, some of the dark parts, literally and figuratively.
Yeah,
But that was
it was a good one. It was an interesting one. Um, one that's didn't particularly pick up here in the States. Well, it's a cult classic by now.
yeah. I never heard of it. I said, where the hell did he get this one?
And there's a particular reason for that, and we'll talk about that. But the movie we're talking about today is the 2013 Snowpiercer.
Yeah, I was like, it was different. I enjoyed it. It was well, I don't know if I ever mentioned, but I don't like dark movies. I mean, dark in content, yes, but when they're dark, like I can't see. But it was a good movie. I enjoyed
Oh
it.
yeah, there was one scene where they were going through the tunnel and it was completely dark and it was
Right,
only lit by those torches. Those were
right,
the
right,
only lights used, practical
right.
lighting, torches, and that's
That
all.
that, that was really cool. That was a cool scene. Yeah, it was a cool scene.
Yeah, so this film was directed by Bong Joon-ho,
Hmm.
who has won an Oscar. He directed the film Parasite.
Right, Parasite. Right,
Um, and he does quite a bit of this type of film. Before Parasite, this was kind of like his niche. I mean, he got his fame with the film The Host, which is kind of like a creature kind of type film, and
mhm.
then he had one about like I think it was like a I don't know, a giant pig, a Bahamas kind of type creature,
Right.
Okja, whatever, about a father and his daughter and this like a pet creature. I haven't seen that one. Maybe we'll put that one on the list because I heard it was pretty good. But this one, was based on a French graphic novel that came out in 1982. Um, I never knew anything about it. I'm sure they took their liberties with it, and we'll talk a little bit about the liberties he might have took with it. But it stars Chris Evans, Jamie Bell, Tilda Swinton, Octavia Spencer, John
Well, it
Hurt,
was. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ed
Okay.
Harris. I mean,
Right,
some pretty big names in it,
right.
and
I
like you
couldn't see it because
said.
it was so dark.
And this is post Captain America, post, Chris Evans being, pretty big,
Hmm.
and that was kind of a hindrance when they were thinking about casting him as his character because it's a dystopian film
Right,
and he's in the back train and they've been eating these protein bars.
right, right.
you
Well, I
know, uh,
immediately thought about what's that movie? Soylent Green.
yeah,
That's all I was going.
so it's like he they had to creatively, put him in wardrobe and the angles that they shot with him so he doesn't look as big.
Right,
Because you're supposed to be hungry back there.
right.
But very very strange, very unique. It did really well internationally. The budget for the film was around 40 million. It made 867 million.
Holy smokes! I didn't look at your
No, not
notes.
800, 86.7.
Oh,
Not
80, okay,
86.
that's
86.7.
that's better. I was like,
Yeah, if it
holy,
made out 800, yeah, yeah,
I was like, holy cow!
you definitely heard about it.
Right,
But the thing is, it only grossed 4.5 million here in the States.
and yeah, that's understandable. Yeah, that's understandable.
Well, it was distributed here in the States by Weinstein.
Right.
We know he doesn't know how to make films. He kept on insisting that it needed narration at the beginning.
Okay.
And I guess, he didn't get his way, so he felt, a little hurt, I guess. So he only put it out to 300 theaters here in the States.
Okay.
So it didn't have a wide release.
Okay.
So that's why it only made, 4.5 million because it was never given a chance here,
Interesting.
which is, it just had to be ego. He must have
Mhm.
been, butthurt, about not getting
Right.
things his way, and decided not to fully distribute it here in the States,
Right.
but he's not going to give up the distribution rights to it. So, I mean, I think he was the cause of it. I mean, I would say it would at least probably, I think it would have got it like 100 and something million
Right.
here if it was put out wide with the, the people who are acting in it, big names. Like I said, this is post him, as Captain America. So Chris
Hmm.
Evans is a marketable name at this time.
Right. Right.
2013, it's what 2 years from since he's probably been Captain America. So I
Yeah.
mean, marketable. Tilda Swinton was a Academy Award winner. Octavia Spencer was Academy Award winner. You know, then you got like John Hurt, Ed Harris. Bigger
Right.
names in there. And then, of course, the director. He was getting his popularity during this time. He's already done two quasi popular films with the host and Okja. So it's like,
Hmm.
man, this was his next thing. This
Right.
this should have done well, but it was never given that chance.
Yeah, I think you're right. Maybe the ones he did was hurt by the didn't take my notes. So here I'm gonna stick it to you.
Yeah, he,
Stand,
he wanted narration at the beginning, but what can you name a film that actually did well that had like narration at the beginning?
you know.
It's the same thing with what I got back there, Blade Runner.
Right.
They wanted him to put narration from Blade Runner. He did, and then they showed it to test audiences, and they didn't like it.
Right.
It didn't help. That's why
Right.
it got cut from all the other versions, and all. It might have showed up at the theaters with the narration, but by the time you got to his director's cut and DVDs and stuff like that, it's like that's all been removed.
Right. Maybe you always think that maybe like when the title scroll, talking
Yeah,
about
I was thinking about Star Wars, but
right.
I think that was, even that I don't think was particularly necessary. I think he was mimicking something with that, like something he's seen before, and he put that in there, or
Do you think?
maybe he thought that, people are too stupid that they need to know something. But it's like,
Right.
when you start a film, a lot of the times man, there's a French word, I can't remember the first word. You know,
Makes no sense.
it basically means start in like man, I have to look it up. It's like
Yeah.
I used to know
Okay.
it like per diem, not per diem, per mim or something like that. It's like where you start in the middle of the action, where it's like
Okay.
you don't
Okay.
start from the very beginning. It's like, oh, this is how the very beginning starts. You
Right.
start with the story going,
Right. The
and
punch. Yeah.
people.
Start with the punch and what led to then you figure out what led to the punch. Right.
Yeah, or you can figure out what happened before by the action that's going,
Right.
right. You just start it, start going, start telling the story. Don't worry about those little things like in Star Wars. He's like, you're not worried about, it's like, who knows what the Clone Wars are, these things that their people are talking about in the in the movie. It's like, well, you don't know what that is, you don't know what they're talking about. It was just mentioned.
Right.
There's no need to actually like tell everybody every single part of the information.
Yeah. Don't spoon feed them. They'll figure it out. The audience is smart enough to figure it out,
Yeah,
or if it's even relevant to move the story forward. Right.
yeah. In this movie, it came around the time where it's like, hey, it kind of fit with a little bit of running theme in Hollywood. That this dystopian future. You have movies like The Hunger Games and things like
Okay.
that were out that kind of like dealt with this scenario, and this was a very interesting way to do it because you were really confined into a train. You didn't have, well, you have a lot of locations, but they're all train cars,
Right.
right? So, I mean, a lot of places are like, it's controlled, it's all indoors, confined areas. So it's nothing too spectacular and, having to figure out like logistics. I believe they made like 26 cars. I mean, so full length. So they built these sets, they built these cars, they filmed in there. The very little CGI, and we talked about that last week.
Right.
you
Right.
know the the only time CGI was the exterior, being shown through the windows.
Right. One thing I did enjoy, I usually don't enjoy the fight scenes, but I really did enjoy it. It was very graphic and real. It was, close up. That was really, I like the cinematography of the fights. It was really good. With the,
Yeah, very
he said,
very like I said, close up in your face, from the back to the front, you kind of got more space towards the front, but I think that was playing with.
well, that was kind of odd, right? Because that's one thing I did look at. It says when they're looking back towards the back of the car, the one car, like that's wider than the railroad tracks. There's physically, it's hanging over the track. It's like that's not going to work. There's a specific gauge. I said that's a pretty wide car there. But it also kind of goes with the freedom because in the back it's and as they're moving forward, they're getting wider, giving people more liberties and stuff. When you start thinking about the psychologically the psychological effect of the space, it got bigger and brighter. But they didn't seem to shield. One thing I know when they did see the sunlight, it didn't seem to. They didn't act as like they hadn't seen sunlight in a while. I noticed that they should
I
have
mean, they
shielded
did a little bit, but like you said, yeah, it wasn't as probably
dramatic
it
as it should have
should.
been.
Yeah,
Right,
it's
right.
like those people in the back cars never seen
Yeah, like
sunlight.
they're the mole people, people living in the subways in New
Yeah.
York, the mole people,
Yeah,
and
very very interesting themes. Dealing with classism and stuff like
right,
that, along with their when I was watching, it's like I never understood. It's like why even have those tail people? It's like
right,
they. I guess every now and then they needed a worker,
right. The
but
little ones, yeah, the little
it's like
ones,
for the most part, it's like I in other futuristic dystopian things, that would be kind of like your slave labor.
right, right,
The people in the back of the car, it's like, oh, you want that food? We're keeping you alive. You're not just being thrown outside to freeze to
right,
death. It's like, well, if we're keeping you alive, you're cleaning the car, you're maintaining
right,
the
right, right,
car, you're
right,
you're cooking food,
right,
but I guess one of the themes of it was overpopulation as well.
right, right. Because they did have the what 74%, and
Right. Yeah,
yeah,
and they had to do a coaling, but the coaling wasn't just for the back cars people.
right,
They needed a coaling of like the front car people.
right, right, right,
And that's why the revolutions were starting, and and they had one every so many years.
right, right, right,
Um, but even that, it's like, well, just move some of the front people to the back. It's like, hey,
right,
the anti-lottery. It's like
right,
it's like
right,
get rid of all the front back car people. They
right,
haven't been educated. They
right,
they've been just not used to anything. Um, but yeah, I could forgive it just because it was unique. It's very complex plot that
right. Yeah,
these
it was a
guys are
good choice.
scheming.
Right, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. It was fun. It was fun to watch. But then, as filmmakers, we think critically, like some of the, but yeah, it was good. It
Yeah,
was,
it's like, man, it's like just you don't even have to touch cars. Just open one of those doors in the back and just start throwing people out. It's like, man,
right,
and move people from the front to the back. He's like, hey,
right,
you one of those old stories I used to read that called the lottery. Where they dealt with overpopulation and everyone grabbed the pearl, and whoever grabbed the black pearl, the whole town just stoned them, right? It's
right,
like, well, that's how you basically do. It's like give everyone a black, pearl. Whoever gets a black pearl in the front, well, they
right.
have to go live in the back now.
Back.
It's, yeah, that's how you deal with overpopulation. There's easier ways than the way that they were trying to do it, where it's
Right,
like, man, there's so much that could go wrong.
right,
Yeah, I guess that it does go wrong.
right,
But I guess it also has a choice. That theme where it's like that next generation is the one that is choosing the controls the future. The kids control the
mhm,
future.
right,
And what's really interesting, and this is only a fan theory, fan theories, well, fans theory, let's put it that way, because multiple people believe this, multiple people think this, that Snowpiercer is actually a sequel to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah, well, I've never seen that movie, but
Oh,
how
you
was
never seen Charlie and the Chocolate Factory?
no, I don't think so. That's with Johnny
Gene
Depp.
Wilder, right?
No, I don't think. No, I never watched it.
Okay, well, that one will have to go on the list.
Oh no, that's the Oompa Loompa one. The one with
Yeah, that's
Oompa
what the Oompa Loompas, the little orange people. So a lot of the themes coincide. In
Oh
Charlie
yeah,
and Chocolate Factory, you have this classism, the poor people that are going through
right.
depression. Um, chocolate bars, protein bars. There's a
Interesting.
I mean that's just a little thing, but the parallels with a group of people traveling through this extravagant closed off factory, and basically they start dying slowly, one by one,
Right,
until the sole survivor gets to the end, and then he inherits, the factory, or the business. So that theme of the children, these are children that are going through it. Children inherit the future or whatever like
right.
that.
What
Very
year was?
societal control, survival, uh the innovations. Willy Wonka and his factory was very kind of crazy and innovative. They did things
Right,
completely different, and that's basically how this train is. It's completely, unique and different, innovative. The W,
right,
the theory is that Ed Harris's character Wilfred is actually Charlie Bucket, the kid from Charlie and Chocolate Factory, and just over time he changed his name to Wilfred, and then kind of like kept the because he got the business at the end of Charlie Chocolate
right,
Factory.
right.
So
Interesting.
it became that more kind of kooky, eccentric kind of person that Willy Wonka was.
Hmm.
You know,
What
uh,
year was what year was Willy Wonka movie? What year is that?
it was
That's
it
been a
was
while.
written in the '60s.
Okay, so that's probably in the 80s.
The film I
80s,
think might have been the '70s because it was Gene Wilder, I believe.
right. And he was young.
And well, as young as he was, probably in Blazing Saddles. Very curly hair. I don't remember too many wrinkles on his face. So, I mean, he was probably 40, 50-ish. So I
Interesting,
think it was in the '70s that it was actually
interesting
made.
theory.
Oh yeah, very, very interesting theory. It'll never be, completely verified, but
Right,
the director's been asked if it was, and all he did was smile, look at the camera and smile.
right,
So I'm seeing that as, yeah, he put that in there.
right.
It's like, was that in the graphic novel? No. I think this is the stuff he put in there for himself, and being creative,
That may
right?
be his own Easter egg, Easter egg for him, you know.
And I thought I remember something like in Charlie and Chocolate Factory, they had like this everlasting gobstopper, right? And the the big test was like there was this corporate stooge that was approaching all these kids and said, if you can get your hands on a everlasting gobstopper and give it to me, I'm going to give you a whole bunch of money, because they were trying to, like, their competitor. They were trying to figure out how it was. And I swear there was something where it's like, well, the one of the secret ingredients for this everlasting gobstopper was kind of like this Ice Nine type of thing. Ice Nine was from like Cat's Cradle or something like that, where it was like some kind of molecule or chemical that causes like an ice age, basically. So it's
Oh,
like,
really?
so I always thought that was like one of the connections too, where it's like, yeah, this candy and something that was in that candy was like, well, it was like the a molecule that eventually got turned into something bad.
Hmm.
In this film, they called it C CW7.
Yeah, CW7, yeah.
Yeah, they were trying to fight global warming with this cold material, and
Right.
they
Frozen
spread it through
world.
the atmosphere with the chemtrails of the planes.
Right.
That goes with the conspiracy theorists.
Right.
And that
And that's
stuff
true. That's true.
causes like the another ice age kind of. So
Right.
it's like, So I think that had something to do with like the chemical in there because I always thought when I read Cat's Cradle that Ice Nine was like a reference to that, whatever chemical that was mentioned and how, how they made the everlasting
Right.
gobstopper.
Interesting.
So yeah, there's so many little things. I mean, there's people saying that, Tilda Swinton's character could have been Veruca, well, you haven't seen Charlie Chocolate Factory. So it's like, so and then, even the actress in the yellow raincoat,
Right.
her name was Plum, and there was a kid named Violet in
Charlie and the
Charlie
Chocolate
Chocolate
Factory.
Factory. Violet's purple.
Right.
Plum is purple. So it's like,
Very,
okay,
you never know.
could that be, them,
That was
those
a
other
strange
kids,
that was a strange scene too. That was just with the tape measure. Like that is weird. No one measures
Well,
someone like
okay, yeah,
that.
well, we'll talk about that. Well, a kid had to be a particular size,
Right, particular size to get in the hole, right?
and that size is theory to be the size of an Oompa Loompa.
See, look at that, another reference.
So, I mean, there was one key thing that probably started all of this. He was explaining uh the part of the machine that kept the train running, thing went in, extinct long ago.
Right.
You don't use a word extinct on something that's inanimate.
Well, yeah, I thought that, but they talked about the bullets.
Yeah.
Like bullets don't go extinct.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, something goes extinct. It's like, well, they must be talking about like, something live.
Yeah, something alive,
So that
right?
means that Oompa Loompa was down there, running the
Right.
machine. Oompa Loompas all died off. So they had to get children to be able to run those Oompa Loompa spaces.
Right.
So
You never. It's weird. It's weird.
and then, like I said, that's just a theory. I mean, there's also other theories that you can probably go into because, Ed Harris did that kind of like motion that the kid had to do. Basically, the kid looked like he was
Yeah.
cleaning out a pipe.
Right. Right. Right.
I saw Tilda Swinton do that, when she was delivering a speech early on to the back people. So it's like
Right.
maybe they were a generation that once were kids and actually did that, and that's why they
Right.
did it. Or they were just preluding,
Right. Right.
foreshadowing, what you're going to
Right.
see that movement for,
Right.
So
Oh my
very,
God.
very, very interesting. You I mean, I'd recommend it for sure.
But I'll watch it. I'll watch it.
Yeah, we'll have to put in, Charlie Chocolate Factory in there. That way we can like actually compare these two.
Right. Compare the notes.
But you enjoyed this film though, right?
Oh, I
This
did.
was the
Yeah,
first time
third.
you've
I
seen
did.
it.
I really did. Except the ending that's kind of like these only two people, and then the polar bear. What the hell's up with the polar bear?
Well, the polar bear is showing that life can exist, outside now.
Right. Well, I was thinking that made
All
yeah,
food. I mean, they could probably kill that polar bear.
or the polar bear gonna kill them.
Then there was that one kid that got into the circle core. That guy probably still alive.
Right. Oh
Just
yeah,
keep,
the one.
yeah,
Yeah,
he just came out of the cabinet and went up there. Like, where did this kid come from?
yeah. Right.
Is there any more back there in the
Right.
bookshelves? There's probably people that still survived on some of those train cars. You know, I mean, plant seeds. I mean, not everything probably went on fire. So, I like how it just left it open.
Right.
But like I said, if there's at least two people and one's a male and one's a female,
Well,
it's
that's
it's
that's
possible.
immediately what I thought because the girl's 17 and the little boy he's gonna be coming of age pretty soon. So
Yeah.
there's our circle of life and the polar bear to feed them. So you never know. Maybe a sequel.
Yeah, like I said, who knows? And I think that's good. It's left it open.
Right.
But yeah, I definitely watch it. Definitely check it out. Definitely after you watch this, watch Charlie Chocolate Factory. Maybe
It
we'll
was.
do Charlie
It's on
Chocolate
my
Factory
list.
next week.
On my list. Yeah, I'll give it a but 4.5 slices.
Yeah, places. Yeah, I agree. Like I said, it could be better, and I think if it was actually meant to be a sequel to Charlie Chocolate Factory,
Mhm.
I would just amend it and market it that way.
Right. Market it that way.
Let them try to like stop you or or whatever.
Right. Yeah, for a dark movie, thematically and dramatic. I enjoyed it. I did enjoy it. It was I only scrubbed a little bit where I knew that there's going to be no dialogue. Say, come on,
Yeah.
let's giddy up. Yeah, I got
Practical
the
effects, very little CGI, good story,
right.
good acting, good little world building,
Mhm.
with the kid being able to see through. He didn't, no, she wasn't able to see through like the doors. Her hearing was better,
Right.
you
Right.
know, and just all those little small details that they were able to put in there, and that just every time you rewatch it, you come up with something new.
Right. 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 I definitely recommend it. Oh, I have to tell you, I was filming one of my coworkers at work, the podcast, and all of a sudden Wright popped up and he's in the bubbles like, oh man, I talked to David, putting the air bubbles for Wright that pop up on the every time I say Wright. I just my coworker thought it was funny. I did too. I didn't realize you'd put him on there. I
Yeah, I
like
try
it.
I try to do them, but
Right, right.
get a mug so we can just raise it up every single
Yeah, we
time,
need to
right?
get him bug. We can get him bug.
All right. So yeah, don't forget to check out this movie and check us, our podcast out, every Fridays at 6 p.m. on
They got 6 p.m. right?
Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts,
Or have yeah,
YouTube,
YouTube. Yeah, we need to get it on YouTube. We need to do a live version on YouTube. Hop on YouTube. Let's talk, right?
maybe even Facebook or something like that,
Right,
or maybe on Twitch. Well, maybe we'll do some Twitch or something like that. Maybe we'll watch the movie. We can't
right.
show the
Well,
movie
that's a
on
thought,
Twitch,
right?
but we'll watch it and give our live reaction, maybe.
Yeah. We like talked about. I want to do that. The Mystery Theater 2000 kind of thing. I never watched. I just like the premise of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Show the back of our heads in the robot, right? All
You
right,
know,
David.
oh, there's my light there. I'm lit now. Our internet's still terrible in this house. We got the TV now. We can cancel the Alphabet internet service.
All right, all right. So maybe we won't have any interruptions. So we'll think about that, and hopefully everything will go smoothly for next week. So
Yep, next week. All right, Dave. Thank you.
bye.
Bye.